Hey everybody, it's the Horror Appraisal. I'm Sam.
And I'm Evan.
We got a fun one for you today. What are we going to be doing?
Absolutely. You know, back a while back, Sam, we did a really cool video that we had a lot of fun doing, and we went to Twitters and asked your guys' opinions, and it was about what the worst horror remakes of all time were.
Yeah, we had a lot of votes on that, actually, and we posted the votes in that video. That was the first green screen video we did, too.
Was it really? I actually didn't remember that.
Yeah, it was.
Cool. So we thought we'd explore the other side of the coin, and we thought we'd bring you, in our opinion, what the 5 best with an honorable mention horror remakes are.
This one's a little different than the last time. We already knew what we were going to pick, but we went ahead and asked today on Twitter, just about an hour ago, really, what you all think is the best horror remakes of all time. So I'm going to go through and give shout-outs and give you responses. The first response was from not Kentish Town Cats. Kentish Town Cats and not Kentish Town Cats respond a lot.
Is that the same guy? Okay.
Well, I don't know. They're a mystery to me. They posted a GIF, which is essentially just an image from The Thing. It's the head growing spiral.
Cool.
Yeah. So that tells us that he thinks The Thing is the best. Glenn Zuju, Z-U-J-E-W, said Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Would have been good except for Jessica Biel. I think was kind of a weird pick for that.
Yeah.
And also he redeemed himself a little bit with Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, that was a good remake.
Donald Sutherland. That's a pretty good.
Yeah, it is actually.
Remake. Angry Mule said The Thing and The Fly. End of list. Well, maybe not so much because we picked 5 plus an honorable mention.
Yeah.
1980s movie graveyard said The Thing, The Fly, The Evil Dead, most anything that starts with the. And he said even Friday the 13th remake was good. Only horror remake he hated was Elm Street. And, Executioner Joe said top of the head, Hills Have Eyes, The Thing, Evil Dead, Fright Night, The Crazies, The Thing, and The Fly. While The Crazies was better than the original, the remake wasn't awesome.
I don't think it had a whole lot to do, though, to beat the original. Maybe some people would disagree.
Fright Night.
I don't want to get into a big thing about Fright Night. I just...
That's okay.
Yeah.
You like what you like.
Yeah.
Body Snatchers said, you have to include The Blob, hashtag best of 88. Actually, that was the #1 film for our 1988
That's
films.
right, it was. We love that one.
And I think that's it. We had some other retweets and stuff. So thank you guys for participating and saying what you think the best horror remake of all time is. That being said, what's our honorable mention?
Our honorable mention that we're just kind of get into, it's kind of a cool little movie, and of course it's based off an absolutely incredible film that originally came out in 1981. It is the 3D remake of My Bloody Valentine.
Man, this movie brought back 3D. It was the very first 3D movie of its kind. 3D hadn't been done like this before, and My Bloody Valentine was the way to go.
Was My Bloody Valentine like the first 3D movie that used like those polarizing lenses?
It was.
See, I don't recall ever using that, and that was me and you went and saw that back. Can you? That's been 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And after that, it did seem like everything that came out after that was 3D again.
We saw Friday the 13th remake the same day.
Yeah, we that was pretty. That was a really cool day. We saw the Friday the 13th remake and My Bloody Valentine remake 3D on the same day. We just left one of the movies and went right into the other.
Well, what's really cool about the My Bloody Valentine remake is we had literally like a week or two before we saw the remake, we finally saw the uncut director's cut version of the original My Bloody Valentine. So we were like, ooh, now that we know it's such an awesome film, we better check it out.
And it still does a good job, I think, of keeping a lot of the creepy element of the original. Of course, the great Tom Atkins stars in the remake too. We really have an affinity for that gentleman.
Tom Atkins is one of our favorite actors, so it's really hard for us to avoid something with him in it. The violence and gore in My Bloody Valentine, if you don't remember it, you should check it out.
It kept you entertained.
I did want to say why Evil Dead wasn't an honorable mention. I will say Evil Dead.
So Evil Dead's not on the list.
It is not, and I wanted to say why before we got moving. There's 2 reasons.
Okay.
The tree scene. It was very important.
The most probably one of the most memorable scenes in a horror movie, especially from the original Evil Dead.
I felt like the producers tried to avoid being too nasty with some of the new fans of Evil Dead, and you had this CG thing that was kind of soft. Second, the rules that the Evil Dead remake set up were you got to get rid of the Deadites, you got to burn them, you got to bury them, or you got to dismember them. Some of the people that were dismembered weren't dismembered. You got the girl in the bathroom that got hit in the head with the toilet fragments.
Oh yeah.
She did not technically get dismembered, or even nothing was removed from her body at all, and she died and disappeared.
Oh, that's not cool.
And then you had the girl who got her arms cut off. I'm sorry, but the original Evil Dead describes dismemberment as what?
Dismemberment would be the removal of all major limbs from a torso, including the head, right?
That's how the original Evil Dead sets it up.
Maybe you could say partial dismemberment is, one arm or two arms, but why are we splitting hairs?
Just take care of the body and cut it all up.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, that's why that one's not on the list.
Yeah.
Number 5. Go ahead. No, I've talked too much already.
That's all right. Number 5 that we chose for the best horror remakes of all time. It was made in 1990. It was directed by Tom Savini, and it stars Patricia Tallman. It stars
Tony Todd.
Isn't
Bill Moseley in it?
Bill Moseley plays Johnny in it.
Yeah.
So, of course, we're talking about the remake of George Romero's classic Night of the Living Dead.
Wow, Night of the Living Dead is an amazing film. And just because it's a best remake doesn't necessarily mean it's better than the original.
No.
But it means it's a good remake.
No.
Night of the Living Dead's really original. Is really enjoyable, I think.
Night of the Living Dead, the remake, I think it does. It still follows the same principles, everything. Of course, it follows these people through their stay through this house and everything. And it's Night of the Living Dead was always a great allegory for man's inhumanity towards man, anyway. And of course, how social things break down. Of course, when trapped together in closed circles, you'll always have a more heroic element and a more of an a-hole-ish element, just like in the original film.
It's interesting to see how Tom Savini didn't get to participate in the original Night of the Living Dead because he was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how he portrayed Night of the Living Dead. I almost feel like he had the right to. I mean, it was if anybody was going to make it, it was him.
If anyone was going to be a at least spiritual successor to that, I'm glad it was him. He worked on Dawn of the Dead, of course, originally, and of course, Day of the Dead. His effects works in that was masterful in making those films so renowned and well known and loved.
Nasty.
He's
amazing. Tom Savini's awesome.
One thing I do like, by the way, all this stuff has spoiler alerts, you guys should know that. One thing that I think is interesting for the remake of Night of the Living Dead, we actually talked about this a little while ago. Of course, in the original Night of the Living Dead, it's very bleak because at the end of it, everybody dies. Everybody. And even, is the character's name Tom?
Ben.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, the original Night of the Living Dead did break some barriers because it was the very, very first black star.
Well, it was the first time like a black man was definitely, I don't know if it was the first time, but it was at least one of the first times that a black actor, and that's the thing, they didn't even make a big deal out of it. It was just a thing.
George Romero
he was kind of the hero of the piece. He was the guy who kept everybody together. He was great, that character.
Yeah, he was awesome. And Tony Todd is reprising that role in the remake, and I think he did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, Tony Todd in the remake at the end, she actually the Patricia Tallman, I can't remember the name of Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara. They're coming to get you, bitch.
Yeah. Barbara's character, of course, portrayed by Patricia Tallman. God, she was so hot on Babylon 5. Anyway, they actually go to the house and they actually end up killing him because he's become a zombie. And what's kind of cool is the end kind of has a little. She doesn't die in the new one, so it's kind of cool. And she's kind of an empowering moment at the end where she gets a little bit of revenge against one of the guys in the house.
You all should check it out if you haven't.
Yeah.
That ending I don't want to spoil. We usually spoil things.
I kind of spoiled it
because it's 26 years old. I mean,
wow. I remember watching the remake for Night of the Living Dead with my dad on HBO, like circa 1991 or 92, I suppose.
If you haven't seen it and you're feeling nostalgic, check it out.
Yeah.
Number 4. I grew up on this film. It was really popular. It made huge impact on the theater at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a big it's got a big list of stars.
Strong cast. Well, maybe with one notable exception, but we'll get to that.
The movie is Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992, and it remade the film from 1931.
So, of course, still starring the late, great Bela Lugosi.
And the late great Gary Oldman. Not a Gary Oldman. No, never mind.
No,
He's not dead.
He's still with
alive.
us. Sirius Black died.
Yeah,
Gary
Sirius
Oldman. Gary Oldman's still alive.
Sorry, my Harry Potter got mixed up there. Gary Oldman's still alive, thank God.
Yeah. One thing that we were talking about is, when we talk about Dracula, we of course always have this imagery of dark castles with shadow play.
This movie does it awesome.
Now, Bram Stoker's Dracula did something really great, in that if you have ever read the original novel Bram Stoker's Dracula, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was kind of maybe a little tedious read. I'm not a literary critic, but the story is mostly told through letters. Now, they do keep that narrative throughout the piece of the film, but they're actually acting out what's going on. But what I wanted to say is, the reason Bram Stoker's Dracula, I think, works so good as a remake is because it does include, even though it follows the book way more closely, very original storytelling in the way they, with the way they presented color, the cinematography of the film.
It's done like a play.
It is done like a play.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Like, just that's one of those films that I've fallen in love with, the way it looks and the way that the way it's done and the way it's
beautiful.
projected.
There's one scene that I love. You know what my favorite actually shot in Dracula is when he's being confronted by Van Helsing and the other people, and he goes back into the shadows, and then he becomes the rats or something, and you can see those eyes.
Yeah.
And he goes back into the rats, and he becomes the rats that fall to the floor. I think that is just absolutely so scary and so cool.
Well, Gary Oldman has so many different looks in this film.
He does.
He's got the little tiny glasses. He's old. He's got I think of him as the butthead from Simpsons. When they make fun of him in the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror with Mr. Burns. He's got the big butt head.
Yeah.
And he's Vlad the Impaler in the beginning.
Yeah, I love that armor that he wears.
It's like a muscle. It looks like
that red armor. It looks like sinews and stuff.
Yeah.
But that red armor, that looks so cool.
Yeah, it's an awesome.
And I remember
armor.
watching that film, and at the beginning of course, when Dracula renounces God and everything, and
he really renounces God.
Yeah, he does in a big way, and that sword goes through the crucifix, and there's all that blood. You just know that you are witnessing something quite unholy.
That's God's like, you know what? You're gonna live forever.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna like it.
Yeah. Now, so love Dracula. Everyone badmouths Keanu Reeves in this film. It's just like,
my love.
Whoa.
It's about as good as Winona Ryder.
Yeah, really. I didn't even think she had a step above him in this. But
No.
who cares? Nobody watched this movie to see Keanu Reeves. Maybe Keanu Reeves was like a heartthrob, way back in the day.
It's an amazing movie.
People who watch movies watch this movie for Gary Oldman, even though he wasn't as well known then, and Anthony Hopkins, of course, was a great Van Helsing.
I want to make one other comment.
Oh, okay.
Movies of the 1990s sometimes had really shit scores as far as music goes.
They did. They weren't as lush.
Dracula, my God, the score in this film is ridiculous.
It's very good.
And if you watch this, watch it and get you a copy that's in DTS. Make sure you got good sound, because it is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really all else I'll say about it. Is the film overall, it's almost depressing, but it's a really great story.
Yeah.
What's number 3, man?
Number 3, moving on, is a great remake. It's the original starred Steve McQueen, and it came out in 1958. And of course, this is one of those great pictures that portrayed the horrors of what comes from out there, what comes from beyond, coming to us. And of course, it's The Blob.
The Blob. It was our number 1 film from 1988.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? This remake, it really didn't change much thematically, story elements from the original film. It's still about a blob that comes out of a meteorite or something. It's this small mass.
It was a total re-envisioning.
And of course it gets bigger and bigger. Now, what really makes the Blob remake special from 1988, what makes it so special is the quality of the special effects.
Oh my God!
This film.
This movie is sick. It is violent.
Yeah.
It is gross.
It's a visual
really
treat.
It is really good. So many people die, and Bill Moseley's in this one.
And Bill Moseley is in this one. Bill Moseley has ties to a couple of the movies on this list.
Yeah.
But there's not much for me to say about the Blob, except for the fact that the special effects were so incredible, and
more person after person after person dies.
Mm-hmm. And I absolutely love that film. You should really check it out.
We probably mentioned this in our top 5 from 1988, but what's your favorite kill in the Blob?
My favorite kill in the Blob. Gosh, we had just rewatched it. Now there's a phone booth kill that is really good in the Blob, but it's really not that violent. It's just very sudden. There's a kill. I like the sink kill.
The sink. The dude gets sucked into like
Yeah.
this industrial kitchen sink that's in
I do
a.
like that. Yeah.
Like he literally gets sucked into the pipe. You can imagine a body being crushed and sucked into a
Yeah.
pipe. Oh my god, it's violent.
It's fun. But, and I know I said something else, but
The clinic kill, where the dude's in the clinic,
Yeah.
and the blob encompasses him.
my
It's the cover of the
goodness.
art.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
so
covers his
cool.
face, and you see the blob moving over his face, and as it's moving over his face, his skin starts to come away from his like skull, and it's
Yes.
and the girl is trying to pull his arm, and his arm rips out of it. Like,
yeah.
it's just
that is
it's a great blob kill.
Listen, we just want to say something. We love the Scream Factory releases of so many Blu-rays that have come out. Scream Factory.
Scream Factory.
What are you doing? Do the Blob.
Release the blob.
Release the Blob.
It's
Get
MGM,
that-
right?
I can't
Maybe
remember.
some weird rights on there.
Yeah, probably. Maybe they're working on it. Maybe we'll get it someday.
Number 2. This is one of those movies I avoided for a while as a kid.
Why?
I was 4.
Were you scared?
3 or 4. I think I was 3. This came out in 1986.
Yeah, it came out in 86. I didn't see it till it was on television maybe around 1988, 89.
I saw a preview for this, a trailer, and it scared me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a leg going stomp, stomp. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to watch this.
This was a scary trailer.
The Fly!
Yeah, The Fly.
Oh my God,
The
I was
1986
terrified.
remake of The Fly. Of course, the original, what was it, 1950?
1958.
1958, of course, starring Vincent Price, my favorite actor of all time, one of the greatest men who ever lived. But The Fly definitely, it kept some thematic elements the same. It's about a guy who's trying to improve the world by figuring out how to transport matter.
And that's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum plays the part, and his
He becomes very disgusting.
in his youthful exuberance. By the way, The Fly is 30 years old. The remake of The Fly is 30 years old.
This year.
Yeah,
That's another good idea. For,
that is
Scream
less
Factory.
old. That is less old than the original was when the remake was made.
That's less old than us. Isn't that shitty?
Anyway,
Gina Davis is in this too.
Yeah.
What a good movie. Christopher Young did the soundtrack for the second Fly.
yeah,
I'm not talking about that, but
yeah, that was out of nowhere. But anyways,
Brundlefly, man, this movie,
I remember I could keep The Fly disgusts me.
it's nasty.
And I can actually do The Fly until that scene with the stuff with the
He
fingernails.
kind of bites his nail. And he's like, oh, and he pulls his nail off.
And then remember, like, he squeezes it and like all this pus,
He's
like all
he's
this.
but then he vomits on a Twinkie, or he is it?
Yeah.
Or,
That's disgusting.
and then
like,
he eats it.
Yeah. At least, but like he still has enough of his mind to realize that what he's doing is horrible. Now, one thing that I remember from this film, and was the scene that maybe it's just because it is so compelling and the imagery is just so. When I was a kid, I remember watching this on WG in Chicago, I think, or something. But like, maybe it wasn't on that because I think it was
USA for me.
It was pretty unedited. But the scene where like the guy who's been like the prick the whole movie, he's gonna shoot him. You still feel sorry for the guy, but like he vomits like on his hand, and like his hand is all
His
like
ankle.
He vomits on his he vomits on his ankle, and he's just like "Ugh," and like
breaks his leg.
and his foot's just over there, like there's his leg, but his foot's like a few inches farther away than what it should be.
When he becomes the Fly, it is.
Yeah, that's it. It's just a total transformation. That
Cronenberg, man.
Yeah, well, Cronenberg, of course, is the master of body horror, and that's not a.
John Carpenter has him for The Thing, I think.
Well, we'll get there. We're just talking about overall. I mean, I don't think anyone really disputes Cronenberg's crown to that title. I would never fart on a video.
You did it before.
I've done it like 80 times. But just saying, The Fly is still keeps the idea of we can probably improve life through science, but
weird science.
But should we? And I think that's always going to be. As long as there's unknown quantities in the universe, I think man will always say, we can do this, but should we?
No offense to Vincent Price or Steve McQueen, but I honestly feel like The Blob and The Fly are films that maybe surpassed the originals and kind of stand on their own as really powerful films.
I do think they stand on their own. Of course, I'm more loath to say that something would surpass an original Vincent Price film because
I'm Vincent Price.
Vincent Price through Creepy Classics actually got me to watch The Blob
Oh.
because he watched that trailer. But You know, I do think that you have a point that they do stand on their own, these remakes. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they're important films.
Yeah.
What's number one? You tell us.
Number one is absolutely what we think is the best horror remake of all time. Of course, we're talking about the 1982 remake of the original 1951, The Thing.
Yeah, it remade Thing from Another World.
Yep.
And John Carpenter, you can tell he loves this film so much. When you look at 1978 Halloween, The Thing from Another World is pronounced.
Yeah, Tommy Doyle and Lindsay are watching it on television. Yeah, they're watching it on television.
I love the introduction to The Thing. You've got the cutaway letters with the thing, and the light comes through, and it's like shining through, and the music is so ominous. And with the original Thing from Another World, you've got like this low brass that's just a belching of a sound. I mean, it's literally how it is. I mean, it's like this nasty blurt.
Yeah, blurt.
They're overreaching the sound that the brass instrument can support. I mean, I love that.
I like that too. It's not something it's very stylized for like the time it was.
John Carpenter kind of threw back to that with the remake.
Absolutely. You know, one thing that I love telling about this movie, love saying about this movie, of course, the special effects in this film are pretty much unparalleled to just about anything else you could ever watch.
Yeah, this movie stands
I
alone.
watched this movie a couple years ago. With there was a guy watching us who was 18, and he was watching it with us, and he said, you know, he was born in like 96 or something, and he said, you know, I didn't know they used to make movies look so realistic back then. He'd never heard of The Thing.
Come on, it's the 80s, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he grew up when, you know, he grew up even after CG dinosaurs were the norm. So
yeah, of course things don't look realistic anymore because they computer generate them. Back when they physically made shit, it looked great.
It looked absolutely incredible. But that's actually one of my favorite things to tell about The Thing, and of course how filmmaking has changed. Is that guy who's, you know, only half our age? He said, I didn't know they used to make movies that looked so real back then. He was impressed by something that was, you know,
it didn't
over
just look
30.
real; it was real.
Yeah, he was impressed with something that was over 30 years old that looked better to him, you know, with his new eyes, seeing it for the first time, than something that, you know, just
it makes me happy. That's the only movie on our list that's older than us. It's actually tied with you.
Yeah,
it's tied with you, 34.
Yeah. I'm old.
Yeah, The Thing is like you got a really good cast. I mean, nobody stands out. They're all kind of like just really great. Wilford Brimley's best role. Well, easily.
Yeah, well, you know, he's Wilford Brimley in anything. I just love that part with Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell in it, of course, because who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love at the beginning where he's playing chess against the computer and it beats him to cheating bitch, and like he dumps his drink into it.
God.
That's
what would
so
you do if you were
hysterical.
in the Antarctic? I mean,
yeah,
you'd be pissed all the time.
Yeah, probably so.
And he's just there because he's a pilot.
Yeah. But you know, has the best kills. Just absolutely ends on a really kind of scary note. I wonder, you know, I always wonder, probably other people have made this comparison, because like they're wondering, you as the observer watching the end of the film thinking one of those guys is the monster. It's kind of like reminds me of the Red Scare from the 50s and stuff.
Honestly, The Thing, man, is as much of...
Which was probably a pretense for a lot of 50s movies like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, it's as much as a horror eye candy as it is a whodunit suspense film. Normally the two don't work together.
Yeah, they make strange bedfellows.
Normally you've got a suspense film and it doesn't have shit for effects.
Yeah.
This movie has the effects.
Yeah, absolutely. The effects that the genre is well known for. A lot of them.
One of my favorite parts of this is when the guy's on the exam table... Just that whole scene, like...
Can you imagine John Carpenter pitching that idea? Okay, the guy's going to defibrillate him. Defibrillate. That's a weird word. Defibrillate. Sorry, that's a weird word. Defib. And he goes down to do it, and John Carpenter's like, now, the guy's chest cavity is going to open up like a big, like...
Haha, gotcha.
Like a
You're not going to shock me.
Like shark's jaws. And now it's going to clamp the guy's arms off, and he's going to be like... Aah! He's just going to have stumps. Like, that, like, if I had been listening to that pitch, I'd have been like, you're nuts. But, oh my God.
It'd be a shocking scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. Shoom.
Oh, God. That movie, man, like, the fire scene where the guy's out in the snow and he's like, like in his stretching out, everything is so just, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this.
Absolutely.
So that's our best remakes of all time that we
All
think.
time.
Again, an honorable mention, you got My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Number 5, you got Night of the Living Dead.
Number 4, Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
Number 3, from 1988, The Blob.
Number 2 is from 1986, The Fly.
And of course, number 1 best horror remake of all time is the 1982 John Carpenter remake of The Thing.
We've enjoyed having you as much as you've enjoyed having us.
Oh my. Yes.
Be sure to subscribe and watch all of our videos. We have
Please.
All of the 1980s. Each year of the 1980s, we did all those top 5 film reviews. We did top 5 lists for every year of the 1980s. It was a tedious task, and we enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be sure to check out our reviews, just our standalone reviews. Sometimes we do unboxing videos. Sometimes we do immediate reactions. Check out our Conjuring 2 immediate reaction. That was a good video.
Yeah, absolutely. But guys, thanks a lot for watching us. Stay tuned. We're going to have more stuff headed your way.
Maybe a top 5 or 10 beheadings.
Yeah, we're going to narrow our focus. We can't just do top 10 kills or top 5 kills of all time. We've got to do,
It's so cliche.
Yeah.
Top 5 scariest films ever.
Ugh, yeah. Oh my God, did you see?
It was so scary. I pooped my pants. I had my period.
Ugh. Okay. Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I'm Evan.
I'm Sam.
Good night, you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Happy 4th.
Yep. Na 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 na.